Hey everybody, ronarray here, and as my Bear Druid build progresses, I constantly change the items, which raises the important question, how to craft the items. So in this video, I want to showcase how to craft all gear for the Druid, from weapon to the armor. Use the timestamps to check the process for every item, and feel free to subscribe to the channel if you like detailed crafting guides like that one. Let's go! Before we will start, there's also another important topic that we need to mention. In 0.4, craft got nerfed compared to 0.3. So before you're starting crafting every item, check out the market, because there's a big chance that you will be able to just buy an item and the item will cost less than crafting it. So let's start the craft with a weapon. At the moment, weapon is very easy and very deterministic to craft. So first off, you will need to get a base. And for the base, I recommend Magic Talisman, and you will need to search for a magic version with item level 80 and increase physical damage at least 155%. Maximum rate should be about 10, so that's your search parameters. At the moment, you can get such base for about 3 divines. At the moment, 10 maximum rage is good enough, but if you can get more, it's going to be better. So personally, I can see some of them on the market for 3, and right here there's one with plus 12 maximum rage, which is working absolutely the best for us, and that's probably the version that I'm going to buy for 3 divines to start crafting the weapon. So now you got the base. If you don't want to buy the base, which is probably the better way at the moment, you can try to get the base yourself. In that case, just get Magic Talisman, which is going to be normal, and use Orbs of Transmutation and Augmentation until you get the same result. So when you got the base, the next steps are very simple. First off, you will need to use Greater Essence of Abrasion. It's pretty cheap and it's going to help us finish prefixes. So click it and you're going to get the weapon like that, with increased physical and increased physical again. On top of that, we will need to buy a pretty expensive omen, so it's Omen of Dextral Crystallization at the moment. It's about 200 exalted at the moment of filming, but it's absolutely worth it. And it's going to help us a lot, so make sure you're buying that and you're activating that omen. After you activated that omen, you will need to use Perfect Essence of Abrasion. Activate the omen and just click it. Right now, suffixes are completely gone and prefixes are done. So to finish the suffixes, first we need to do 2 random suffixes at the moment. And for that, use Omen of Greater Exaltation together with Greater Exalted Orb. You will need to click it only once, and here we got double suffixes. It doesn't matter what kind of suffixes you got, because we're going to reroll them a little later anyway. So after that, you will need to use Omen of the Leech together with Preserved Jawbone. It's going to add one more suffix to your item. So just click it with Preserved Jawbone, and right here we got the last suffix. So after that, we will need to decide what's going to be on the weapon. If you're looking to get Onslaught, so chance to gain Onslaught on kill and hits with this weapon, it will be harder for you, and you will need to use Perfect Essence of Haste. If you don't and you just want plus 5 level of all attack skills, you just need to click your item with Perfect Essence of Battle, and after that reveal your suffix. That's pretty much it. So I'm going to go for a little more expensive version, which will have Onslaught. You're clicking your item with Perfect Essence of Hate, which is just replacing one of the suffixes with Onslaught, which is pretty nice. And after that, we are clicking it with Perfect Essence of Battle. So right now, as you can see, my Hate Onslaught got replaced. That's why that part could feel a little expensive, because you will need to click with Essence and Battle multiple times until you will have both modifiers at the same time. So I'm clicking with Essence of Haste again, and we lost a Desecration. Most of the time, since we lost a Desecration, we will need to rebuff a Desecration. For my current item, I've been very lucky and I got like attack speed tier 3, which I would try to roll from Desecrate anyway. So in this case, I don't really need to replace it. And I'm going to use another example item to continue the craft. So right now, let me continue from a second weapon. We are currently at the same situation, so we have prefixes done, and we have double bad suffixes, and we have a desecration. So let's click it. First, you're clicking with haste, which is pretty good, and after that, you're clicking with battle. It could be pretty annoying, but here it is, and I finally finished. So it took a few clicks, as you can see. In the case, if you're losing a desecrated modifier, you will need to use Omen of Dexteral Necromancy together with Omen of the Leech and Preserved Jawbone again. Don't forget the Dexteral Necromancy, otherwise you can lose the prefix and it's going to ruin your item completely. So for the reveal, attack speed by itself is guaranteed, but I still recommend to take Omen of Abyssal Echoes to have a chance to get a little better roll for yourself. And if you want to divine click your item to get a little better stats at the moment, I recommend to divine click it before revealing the attack speed. Don't forget to click your Omen of Abyssal Echoes for reroll. And here it goes. So as you can see, I got like 14 attack speed. So I'm going to be a little ambitious and I'm going to reroll that, trying to get even more attack speed, but in the end, I'm still ending up with 14. So here is the item that we ended up with. It should cost about 15 divines approximately, depending on the market situation, but it's looking pretty good and you can use it right away. Now let's talk about the armor craft. And for the armor first, we will need to pick a base. As a base, I recommend to get Warlord Cuirass. It's kinda nice at the moment because it gives you armor, also applies to elemental damage. You can pick any other base that you will like, so just change the name, and perfectly it should be item level 82 for better rolls, or you can go item level 81. I don't really recommend to go lower than 81 at the moment, so make sure that your base is normal, you have like armor level 82, and those bases are pretty cheap, you can buy a lot of them for only 3 exalteds at the moment. So first off, let's click those cuirasses with perfect orbs of transmutation. So I'm clicking all of them. The ones with the life rolls are good, reduce attribute requirements is not really working, and you can just throw them away immediately. Resistances are good as well, stun threshold is not working. Most of the time you just need to roll armor, life or resistances. After that you need to click them with perfect orb of augmentation and see what you will end up with. Perfectly, you need to get armor, you need to get life or something like that for additional bonuses. So after you got your body armors like that, we can go with a cheap way or expensive way. Anyway, it's going to be a pretty big gamble because it's very cheap to arrive at this point. So for example, for that armor, since we have armor and cold resistance, we're going to use a cheap way, so we're going to just click it with greater essence of the body. It's going to give us life, and after that we'll just need to finish the suffixes. For that body armor, since we already have life, we're going to use greater essence of enhancement to get armor. Unfortunately, armor at the moment is only tier 4, so it's not going to be perfect, but this is a cheap way. So here what we ended up with. And for that body armor that I got, we're going to use expensive way. Since we have life and armor applies to elemental damage, I'm going to use greater essence of insulation instead. So it's giving me a fire resistance, and that one is getting life essence too. So that's what we ended up with. At the moment, we have prefixes and we have open suffixes too. And here we have again like more deterministic way and more gamble way. So at the moment you can just click it twice with greater exalted orb and after that finish with desecrating. Or we can go with safer way. We're going to use a preserved reap together with Omen of Sinistral Necromancy. So activating Necromancy, we're going to click all of them with preserved reaps to finish our prefixes. So after we finish the prefixes, the only thing we can do with suffixes is pretty much a gamble. So just clicking all of them with double greater exalted orb is usually the best way to finish. So if you will get lucky, you will end up with something like that. So here I ended up with double resistance, life and desecrated mode. That one failed tremendously, and the last one got stun threshold and thorns, which is absolutely horrible as well. So those two could be considered fails, and those two could be considered alright at the moment. Judging at the moment what you want to reroll and what you don't want to reroll is just up to the market. So here, let's go with the first one. And as you can see, I can get a flat armor, which is working out pretty good for me. Right now, I ended up with a very good armor number. Let's try the rest. Here, I'm taking the flat as well, so we'll have more armor in the end. And 2 failed ones, I'm still revealing them. You can try to get something like Spirit if you feel like it will improve the situation, so I'm probably going to take Spirit for this. And for the last one, I will probably just take 67% increased armor to get at least a little more armor into the flock. Such bodies should cost at least 5 divines and probably even more considering I have like a very good implicit, and it's pretty close to what I'm using myself, so here's mine. You can repeat the process up until you'll be satisfied completely with what you received, but please keep in mind the process itself is pretty big gamble since we don't have a deterministic way to craft it at the moment. So now let's talk about the helmets. And for the helmets, we're going to use exceptional Imperial Great Helm. It could be either 2 sockets, but it's going to be much more expensive, or it's going to be 1 socket. Since helm crafting is RNG, I don't recommend to go for double sockets if you're not pretty rich already and aiming for a very good helmet. The process is going to be the same, so for easier part, I'm just going to showcase a normal set with 1 socket helmet. So you need to just search for Imperial Great Helm, nothing else added, and here it's going to cost only like 2 exalteds per every base, and you will need to buy a bunch. So after you got the bases, the process is pretty streamlined. You will just need to use perfect orb of transmutation on all helmets and check what kind of stats you rolled. So for example, reduced attribute requirements are pretty bad, it's not working, so we're just throwing that base out. And the same goes for all stats that we currently don't need, so mana, thrown out, intelligence, not really needed, we're keeping the armor, we're keeping the rarity since it's a good stat, and we're also keeping armor applies to elemental damage. I'm not really that fond of STR and I'm going to throw it away, but you can keep it if you would like. So after you finished up with that bases, you're going to use Perfect Orb of Augmentation to all of them. It's pretty big RNG at the moment, but as you can see, I rolled at least a few examples of pretty normal bases. After that, you will need to use Greater Essence of Encasement or Essence of the Body if you don't have life. I usually try to aim for higher life, but at the moment getting nice bonus for life just from Essence, in my opinion, is so I'm going to use Greater Essence of the Body on all of those because it's providing tier 3 modifier, which is very cool. After I did that, we will need to finish our prefixes. Most of the time prefixes, in my opinion, just playing a little bigger role, so perfectly you will need to have a suffix on your base. In that case, you can just use Omen of Sinistral Necromancy to guarantee a prefix together with Preserved Reap. If you would like to get suffix instead, you can just use a suffix Omen or click Preserved Reap randomly. And if you want to save currency, you can also avoid spending Preserved Reap and Sinistral Necromancy and just use Greater Orbs from the start. You will need to click twice with Greater Orbs, so here I got a resistance, which is in my opinion pretty good. And I'm probably going to guarantee a suffix on that base. Here I got accuracy, which is pretty bad. Here I got another resistance, which is pretty good again. So that one we can just click with Preserved Reap. And here I would probably like to guarantee a suffix to make sure that we are getting the last resistance together with rarity. An Omen of Dextral Necromancy. At the moment it's pretty cheap and you can get it pretty fast. So here I'm getting 4 and I'm going to click both of those versions with a suffix, and that helmet in my opinion is already failed, it's looking not good and I'm going to throw that away. After that, you will need to use the rest of Greater Assault, and here I'm getting a second rarity, which is absolutely amazing. And here I'm getting mana Together with Armour, which is in my opinion pretty fine, so nothing bad about this. That one is looking absolutely amazing because we have a pretty decent amount of armor and we also have life and very high rarity. So for that one I'm probably going to use a reroll. Let's see what we will get. So for that one I hope for resistances, and I believe Cold and Chaos is looking pretty decent at the moment. And you also need to keep in mind, while you're doing Helmet, this is pretty RNG process and you might redo that multiple times to get better results. It's absolutely normal and don't expect to hit something from first attempt immediately. Here I'm using the reroll and we can get multiple cool bonuses. Armor applies to elemental damage would be nice. I believe it's a little too low and I'm going to risk and reroll. And unfortunately that part failed. So if I would just take a resistance, it's probably going to be a better option. But at the moment I still have about 35% rarity with additional elemental resistance and a pretty decent armor. Something like that still cost about 2 divines approximately, and if intelligence wouldn't fail it would be more. So here for example is more luckier option that I actually did following exactly the same pattern. So I got a life, I got armor from Greater Essence of Enhancement because I already had life. And on top of that, I also got rarity and double resistance. I think that one ended up a little better from the second bunch compared to what we had before. So let's see what we can get out of it. We can get a pretty nice amount of flat armor. It's about tier 2, and it's probably the best idea to just take it without overusing the reroll. We could also aim for second rarity, since our rarity here is a suffix, but I think just taking tier 2 armor is good enough solution. I think that one ended up very good. And at the moment on the market there's not a single one helmet with something like that. So now let's craft some boots for the build. So for the boots, you will need to search for a magic base with a pretty specific things. So initially you're taking boots with magic, you're searching for life and total elemental resistance. It could be any elemental resistance, so use like a pseudo elemental resistance bonus to search for it. You will need to just add total elemental, and here's your modifier, that's how you're getting it. So maximum life, total elemental resistance, and armor should be 256 or higher. So right here on the market there are some bases like that. If you're poor and you don't want to spend too much, you can practically get Valgriefs. If you want a little better base, you can invest a little more and raise the armor, so it will be 270, and in that case you'll get like the Thessalian Greaves. It's not changing much, so just keep it in mind. You can also get a better roll of resistance if you care about that, and better roll of life as well if you care about it too. So from now on, the process is pretty basic. So you have basic boots right here with one prefix and one suffix. We practically need both, so we will need to use an essence next. The question is, what are you aiming for? Are you aiming to get like resistances or you want rarity? If you rarity, you will need to get like greater essence of opulence and use that. And if you're just going to aim for resistances, you will need to use essence for any resistances you will like. I'm probably going to just add fire resistance in here, so here I'm clicking it. Now we have double suffixes. After that, use Omen of Dextral Necromancy and Reserved Reap to hit it. So don't forget Omen of Dextral Necromancy because we will need a suffix. So right here we have triple suffixes and we have life. After that, we are going to use Fracturing Orb because we want to hit life. So we will be able to actually force movement speed by eating and adding another prefix. But our chance is like 30%. Let's try to hit it. And I hit life, which is absolutely perfect condition. So if you fracture the life, it's pretty easy to continue right here. If you will note, I will show that a little later in that video. So at the moment, if you hit the fracture, you will just need to use one Exalted Orb to get another prefix. And after that, you will need to use Omen of Sinistral Crystallization together with Essence of Hysteria. Here you have your movement speed up, which is absolutely perfect. And to finish it, it's pretty easy. We're just clicking it with Greater Exalted Orb, hoping for good stats such as Armor. So for example, I got a basic Armor right here, which is pretty nice. And we're using Well of Souls with a reroll to get our last suffix up. And here it could be anything. So personally, I believe getting like Armor applies to Elemental or Chaos Resistance, both are good. And here we are, we ended up with boots that cost approximately like 8 to 10 divines and looking absolutely amazing. So right here the situation is not that good anymore. And we will need to use Omen of Dexter Crystallization for suffix removal together with Essence of Hysteria. That way we have 50% chance to remove a Desecrate and 50% chance to remove a Cold Resistance, which is a pretty big gamble. If we're going to remove a Desecrate, we can just re-Desecrate again, so that's going to be a pretty win. If we're going to lose the Cold, it's going to be a worse scenario, and there is a chance that we will fail the craft. So let's just use the Hysteria right here and eat a Desecrate. So if it's eating Desecrate, that's absolutely fine, you will just need to use Dexter Necromancy and Preserved Reap again. And if it would eat Cold Resistance, we would need to finish it in the same fashion, just using Greater Exalt Orbs to slam. So at the moment we're slamming last prefix, which is Armor, and it's absolutely amazing. Now let's finish the craft. So we have the boots right here, we have reroll, and let's see what kind of suffix we can get. So at the moment, just getting like Lightning and Chaos Resistance is probably going to be the best idea, because it's going to give us additional resistance in general, or we can just take the normal Lightning. I'm going to take just Lightning Resistance because I'm not sure how heavily people fond of Chaos, and we're ending up with something like that. So triple resistances, movement speed, life and armor, which is absolutely perfect. Boots like that at the moment should be pretty expensive, especially considering that we have a very high armor right here. And I think I will be able to sell them for about 14 divines at the moment, when I spend significantly less. Now it's time to do the gloves. Please keep in mind that gloves at the moment is probably one of the most RNG based crafts, which is definitely not that nice. However, here are the setups that you will need to use. First off, you will need a magic base. It could be any magic base, but it's going to be gloves, obviously. So right here, get a stat filter with level of all melee skills 2, and you will need a count out of 4 stats: maximum life, physical damage, cold damage and fire damage. You can get any of those because any of those will work. Make sure that your base is like level 75 and higher. The higher the better actually. And it should have some armor. I usually don't care about armor on the base much, but I think having armor is better than having nothing. So here on the market there's a lot of such bases. I wouldn't go for tier 5 of fire damage, so you can scroll a little down, and for example here we have like tier 1 cold damage to attacks, which is pretty nice. So here where a lot of RNG is coming into the play. So you have the base, and right now we will need to first use the essence and after that desecrate it. So initially, if you are looking for rarity again, I recommend to use Greater Essence of Opulence for it. But if you're just looking for resistances, getting Greater Essence for any kind of resistance you want is probably the way. I currently need resistances, so I'm probably just going to click it with Greater Essence of Grounding right here. After I got it, we have like a double suffix, and we will need to try and get the last suffix here. So click it with Preserved Reap, and right here we have it. After that, I heavily recommend to just go and try to check the suffix immediately, because it's going to determine what's going to happen. Don't forget Omen of Abyssal Echoes, because we really need to hit something nice as a suffix. It should be another resistance or attack speed at the moment, so as you can see most of those are not really good. We can try to take physical attack damage as life, but at the moment I don't really believe it's worth it. Instead, I'm going to reroll. And as you can see, all suffixes are bad. That's pretty much where RNG is coming into that craft, because if you're getting a bad suffix, there's not a lot of things you could do. So after you got it, if the suffix is bad, craft is practically bricked, and you will need to start from the start. Or you can also try to risk it and use Orb of Annulment trying to hit in the desecration mode, but the chances are pretty low. So in this case, if it's failed already, I could probably just use Greater Exalteds for 2 additional prefixes. I got a pretty lucky roll, and I think together I can still sell those gloves. So here is another attempt I completed using literally the same tech. So right here I got like double resistances plus 2 melee life, and since I used Omen of Greater Exaltation to click it with Greater Exalted Orb, I ended up with pretty nice lightning damage and a pretty decent cold damage as well. So I think those gloves are looking decent enough, even if you don't have attack speed on those. So that's been it for the whole setup. You can just keep redoing the gloves until you hit something very decent, in the same fashion like I did it. Generally, crafting 0.4 is significantly more random based, so keep in mind that to get good items for half of those, you will need to craft it multiple times. I think weapon is probably the most deterministic craft at the moment and the easiest one to do, so you can just start with that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm wishing you as good crafting experience as you can get. ronarray out.